A lot has gone down since the last time I went through some of the biggest news stories around the American soccer landscape, and because of that I have a lot to talk about. Welcome back to another edition of Quickfire News, where we'll be looking at some of the league-shattering news that dropped Saturday morning, the list of cities that will be hosting games during the 2026 World Cup, a massive commitment to MLS's broadcasting future, and a USL team that is making waves. All of that coming up, so stay tuned. The first story I want to talk about is the story that came out of absolutely nowhere, and it's five-time Champions League winner Gareth Bale coming across the pond to bring his talents to Los Angeles. Now, Bale to MLS isn't a new thing. A few months ago, there were reports about DC United making contact with Bale's camp in hopes of bringing him to the nation's capital after his contract expired at Real Madrid. Nothing ever really came from that though, other than some back and forth reporting till it disappeared altogether. Then, after the European season ended, it was reported that Bale was eyeing down an early retirement at the age of 32. But after qualifying for the Qatar World Cup at the end of the year with Wales, he needed somewhere to play to stay in form for his first ever World Cup appearance. At this time, it was most likely that he was going to his boyhood club Cardiff City in the English Championship. But in an insane turn of events, Saturday morning, LAFC posted their typical big signing teaser, and then a report came out of nowhere from MLS journalist Tom Bogert saying that LAFC were finalizing a deal for the Welsh attacker. A few hours later, Gareth Bale confirmed the signing on his social medias. A few things to note for this one. First, surprisingly, Bale is not coming in as a DP, which is kind of crazy. LAFC are signing him using a TAM deal here, which is a bit complicated, but basically they're able to buy out his contract without it affecting their salary cap. The reports say that he is signing on for a 12-month deal, but there is an option for another 6 months to be added on, which would make Bale a designated player. With this signing and the supposed re-signing of Carlos Vela, reported by Taylor Twellman, we're looking at an LAFC team who is already on top of the West, fielding a team with the likes of Vela, Bale, Rodriguez, Chiellini, Chicho Arango, and a whole host of other top talents. This also still leaves another DP spot open on LA's roster. The question now is, though, will Gareth Bale perform in MLS? Or will it just be a bit of a fun gig for him until the World Cup happens? During his time in Madrid, it's pretty well reported how disrespected he was by the club and its supporters. And yes, he did feed into that a little bit too, so it was a little both-sided, and many people have cited his lack of effort and desire to play during those years in Spain. But he still is a top player, which is most visible when he's playing for his country and actually enjoying the game. After reading a few interviews with Bale, he still gives me the impression that he is bought into the sport, and as long as he can stay injury-free, I have no doubt he's going to be a menace in this league. Again, this news just came out, so I'm still a little bit shell-shocked, but what a move this is, and I'm really excited to see him in MLS. The next story I want to cover is the announcement of which cities will be hosting games during the 2026 World Cup in Canada, USA, and Mexico. The majority of these cities are, as expected, in the United States, with 11 locations chosen, while Mexico received 3 and Canada received 2. In Mexico, the cities selected include Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City. The most notable one out of those cities has to be Mexico City, where games will be played in the historic Estadio Azteca, which has hosted the 1970 World Cup final between Brazil and Italy, where football legend Pelé scored a goal in a 4-1 win, and the 1986 World Cup final, where an Argentina side boasting Diego Maradona defeated West Germany 3-2. In Canada, the two cities selected were Toronto and Vancouver, which will host games at the Whitecaps BC Place and Toronto's BMO Field. With the selection of Toronto, BMO Field will actually undergo an expansion, which will see the total capacity rise 17,756, which will bring the total capacity to just under 46,000. The final 11 sites are in the United States, with some big cities including Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, Seattle, and many more. Unlike in Mexico and Canada, where soccer-specific stadiums will be utilized, there are no soccer-specific stadiums being used in the United States. Each stadium being used is an NFL stadium, which does bring down a bit of the intimacy level for the atmosphere in my opinion, but it's completely understandable because there are not any soccer-only stadiums that are large enough to host the massive crowds that the World Cup will be bringing in. Let me know down in the comments what cities you're most excited to see the World Cup in and why. 2026 may be a long time away, but it'll be here before we even know it. The next story is possibly the biggest story we're ever going to cover in this series in a long-term effect perspective, and it's the groundbreaking TV deal that MLS has signed with Apple TV. Since the beginning of the year, reports were out on the potential new TV deal MLS would bring in with their current contracts ending at the end of the 2022 season. There were many potential deals to be made with broadcasters like Fox Sports, ESPN, 2DN, along with many more. Eventually, after a drawn-out conclusion, it was finally announced that Apple TV would be the sole place for every MLS game from 2023 to 2032. This deal comes out to around $250 million per year and in full at a staggering $2.5 billion over the course of the 10-year commitment. Like with anything, there are some positives and negatives with this deal. We'll start with the negatives. First off, this is going to be a part of Apple TV, which will be a separate subscription service for only MLS. If you already have Apple TV Plus, from my understanding, this is not included in that subscription. It's its own separate thing. The price hasn't been revealed on how much this unnamed service will cost, but I'd reckon it'd be about $5 to $20 a month. Now, I have no backing for that estimate, that's just what I'm guessing from other services like this. This brings up the issue of pricing out potential new customers. For me, I'm an MLS guy, so whatever the price is for this service, odds are I'm going to pay it. The issue comes with new fans. Would a fan who isn't already a fan of the league, or even just a casual supporter, want to pay the money just to watch this league? That I'm not too sure about. For me, I already have trouble getting my friends to watch MLS normally, so now that it's on its own service, yeah, I doubt I'll ever get them to pay attention to it now. Now, this is kind of a similar path that other leagues in Europe have gone down. For the Premier League, they've sort of gone down this path to pay to watch using Peacock TV. But the difference is they already have their audience. They don't need to prove their worth to the fans, and those fans will pay for the Premier League. MLS doesn't have that luxury. Another issue with this Apple TV deal is that local broadcasts will be no more. If you aren't familiar what that means, let me explain. For me, in Ohio, to watch Crew games, I have to watch it through cable on a channel known as Bale Sports. The hosts and commentators of those games are ones that only cover the Crew. But with Apple TV, Bale Sports don't have access to broadcast Crew games, and the jobs of these local broadcasters are on the line. This is how it is for many MLS teams. Any local broadcasters who have talent and deserve to cover this league may possibly not be chosen to work for the team over on Apple TV. So accessibility and no local broadcasts are an issue, but there are positives too. First off, I think this deal will finally give MLS a chance to get full, complete coverage. Instead of like last year's MLS Cup final getting postponed due to some college basketball game, MLS will have number one priority on their own network. Along with that, the content MLS will release regarding this league will be on a whole nother level. There's already talks about a whip around show for every week where you can catch all of the highlights on one live stream. The potential for content is now unlimited. Now, you may be wondering if nationally broadcasted games on the likes of ESPN and Fox Sports are dead, and the answer to that is no. There is still room in this deal to offer nationally broadcasted games every once in a while to the current TV partners, and even if the game is nationally broadcasted on cable, it will still be available on the Apple TV service. Another great part of this deal is no blackouts. Under the previous deal, if you did not have cable to watch your local broadcast, you cannot see your local team play, even if they were on ESPN+. With the Apple TV, you can watch any game from anywhere at any time. I do think this deal is beneficial for the league, and I'm happy that we will have more MLS-centric content to consume. I'm looking forward to having everything in the same place, and I already spend money on a bunch of streaming services to watch the Premier League, Champions League, Serie A, La Liga, so it's really just the norm these days that we have to get used to. All in all, I am for the Apple TV deal. And for the final story we'll cover in this video, it's gotta be about the Cinderella run that we're witnessing right now in the US Open Cup. Last week, the quarterfinals of the Open Cup were played, where we had two lower division clubs in the USL Championship Sacramento Republic and the USL League One's Omaha Union. Unfortunately for Omaha Union, they suffered a pretty rough 6-0 defeat to Sporting Kansas City. But in the other match, Sacramento Republic were able to capitalize on a very inconsistent LA Galaxy team to book their place in the Open Cup semifinals for the first time in their history, and the first appearance by a lower division side since the 2017 USL Championship FC Cincinnati. Now, Sacramento will host Sporting Kansas City for a spot in the final in the biggest match ever to be played in Sacramento's history. On the other side of the bracket, it'll be one of the New York Red Bulls, Orlando City, or Nashville SC waiting for them. This achievement has shown how the gap between MLS and lower division sides in this country is continuously getting smaller, and even though the heights of MLS are much higher than the USL Championship, it's still closer than you'd expect. Of course, for storyline reasons, I'm rooting for Sacramento, and I hope to see them get the chance to lift this trophy in the final. And that's all I got to cover for today. Let me know your thoughts on any of the topics I discussed in this video, and I hope to see you next time.